So the Houthis are a Zaidi Shia organization by ideological affiliation. So they don't share the same version of Shia Islam that Iran's other partners do. Hezbollah, its militias in Iraq, and other groups. But it has been a partner of Iran for many years now, and it was Iran that helped the Houthis develop their military capabilities that allowed the Houthis to take over basically 2/3 of the Yemeni state following beginning in 2014 up until today. And so the Houthis developed a very robust missile capability similar to Hezbollah, thanks to Iranian support, advising, technology, and training, and financing. And when one of the things that the Houthis did when Israel began its ground operation into Gaza to root out Hamas and return the hostages, was that it began firing its missiles at Israel and drones. And its capacity to do so was limited at the beginning, but it gradually increased. One of the other things that the Houthis did was they closed the Bab al-Mandeb Strait to international shipping, which affected the commercial viability of Israel's port in Eilat, but it really hurt the Egyptians more than anyone else, I would argue.
Why did it hurt the Egyptians more?
Because the Egyptians' economy is based on particularly the foreign currency it has is based on revenues it gets from international shipping transiting through the Suez Canal and tolls that international ships need to pay. When the Houthis began attacking international ships, which they said they were only going to attack ships that were somehow connected to Israel, that wasn't really good enough for commercial shipping. They were concerned that they would be targeted. And so what you saw was the huge amount of global trade that transits through the Suez Canal and the Bab al-Mandeb Strait going from east to west or west to east began to reroute itself around the southern coast of Africa rather than transit through the Suez Canal and the Bab al-Mandeb Strait, which meant that Egypt as a state lost huge amounts of revenue that it would have had as a result of the normal transit through the Suez Canal. And so the Houthis closing the strait didn't have a massive economic effect on Israel. It did affect the global economy, not the way many people anticipated it would, but it did have a massive impact on the economy of Egypt. And so Israel, in facing the Houthis in Yemen, we're now facing an enemy that was more than 1,000 kilometers from its borders. And I would argue that there wasn't a great deal of institutional knowledge and familiarity with the Houthis here in Israel, certainly not at the level that Israel knows its enemies closer to its borders, like Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Islamic Jihad, and Iran. And so Israel all of a sudden was facing the challenge of dealing with a Houthi enemy that was far from its borders. It's something that Israel, I think, did an excellent job in adjusting to over the course of the war. But for our listeners, it just, to give you an idea, Israel was being attacked from the south. The Houthis were attacking southern Israel. It was being attacked from the east, from Iraq by Iranian supported militias in Iraq. And it was being attacked from the north by Hezbollah in Syria and Lebanon. And at the same time, it was trying to defeat Hamas in Gaza and return home its hostages. So this is why it was fighting a war on 7 fronts. A thing to remember when we consider where Israel is today. In the most recent war that began at the end of February of this year, the Houthis have remained on the sidelines so far. There were a few symbolic attacks on Israel, but for the most part, they haven't really yet joined the war. And I say yet because they still could. And so the world right now is concerned about opening up the Strait of Hormuz, but there's also a possibility that the Houthis could try to close the Bab al-Mandeb Strait, another major choke point for international trade.